Welcome, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a ChatGPT question answering bot right from scratch. So let's just get into it. So from the chatbot area, you're going to click the plus sign. This is going to create a brand new chatbot. All the bots start with a start control, which is this control here. For example, I could just click and drag and drop another one here if I wanted to, but just to make sure that you understand that part of it. So here it is right here. I'm going to double click on it. I'm just going to give it a name. I'm just going to put GPT QA. That should do it. All right, so the next thing we want is an actual ChatGPT widget, which is this widget here. I'm going to drag it on and connect these two. And before I go into this, let's do the one additional option that we need, which is a reply or a chat widget. And then I'm going to connect this one to this. Okay, so let's start here. So I'm going to double click on this widget here. The first thing we're going to look at doing is to say, hey, am I using public information or am I using private information, being the information that we're going to train the bot on? In this case, we're going to use our own information. If we were to use the public information, then ChatGPT can just answer any question that the normal ChatGPT, like the public one over at chat.openai, can answer. Just all the public information from the internet. That's not what we want here. We want to use our own private information here. Now, when you choose this information, this option shows up here. And we're gonna go and have a look at where this information comes from and how to set it up in just one moment. But I've already set that information up and I put it into this test container here. So I'm just gonna choose that. And this dropdown allows us to choose the actual ChatGPT model that we want to use. And here I'm going to use the latest model, the 4.0 model there. We're going to skip over these templates for now. We don't need that at all. And the next thing we're going to look at is the prompt. And this is the prompt that we're going to send into ChatGPT to give it its instructions on what to do and how to process all the information that is sent to it. In the interest of time, I just click this button here to open up a bigger window. You can also edit it in this smaller window right here. But in the interest of time, I have pre-prepared a prompt, and I'm just going to paste it here. And let's go over what it's saying. So this is saying today is now, and this particular variable is here so that ChatGPT always knows and understands what the current date and time is. That's all it does. Sometimes we need that for date purposes and things like that, but it's a good thing to include, although we don't specifically need it for this bot. The rest of the prompt: you are an expert at answering questions. Use the provided context to answer all questions. So basically, by saying this, what happens is when you execute a search, the system is going to look in the information that you've provided, all the training information, and find relative pieces of data from that information and just send those relative pieces into ChatGPT so it can use that to answer the user's question. So that's what's happening right here. And then we tell it, hey, look, if you don't know an answer to a question, we don't want it to hallucinate, which means it'll just make something up, and we don't want that. So we specifically have to tell ChatGPT, hey, just say, sorry, but I don't have that information. Is there anything else I can help you with? Or if there's other information or a different sentence or verbiage that you want to send back to the user in the situation where the bot does not have the information that they're looking for, then you can put whatever verbiage here that you want. And then we just go here and say, start by saying, hello, how can I help you? And again, you can change this to whatever you want, whatever kind of greeting that is appropriate for your context. So I'm going to save that, and we've got our prompt. Now next, we've got some options here. We don't need this. I'll discuss some of these other things in another video. But the temperature is important. So basically, this is less random at 0 and more random up at number 1. So if you put 0, and it does find information that the user is answering, it will try its best just to answer according to what you've put into the context. If you put it closest to 1, it will still answer in the right way, but it will use more words. It'll be more creative in the way that it responds to the user. A good average is zero 0.2 or 0.3, somewhere in that range. Okay? The number of tokens. This option is important. It defaults to 250 tokens. I'm not going to be really elaborating on the tokens too much in this video, but basically it never hurts to put more tokens, especially if you anticipate answers coming back that are going to be larger in nature. If an answer is larger than the tokens that you've provided, ChatGPT will just truncate the answer. We don't want that to happen. So I always default to more tokens. And if you want to especially control the length of ChatGPT's responses, the best way that I found to do that is to indicate here, say for example, you could put your responses must be no more than 100 characters or 100 words or 250 words, that kind of thing. If you just simply tell ChatGPT the average length of the responses, then it will actually do a very good job at keeping within those parameters. Okay. Next, conversation context. You don't need this, and I'm not going to go over that right now. The next option, which is very important to turn on, is this checkbox here to remember the conversation thread. So basically, by turning this on, ChatGPT will remember the entire conversation and maintain the conversation as it's engaging and talking to the user. Without turning this option on, the only thing that the user is going to see is the welcome message, because ChatGPT won't remember that it had a response from the user, and it will just consistently say, hello, how can I help you? The user will respond, it will say, hello, how can I help you? And that's because it doesn't remember that the user actually already responded. Okay, so if there's going to be that two-way conversation, it's important that you turn this on. And again, these function parameters, we're not going to go over this for this particular demo, and it's not needed for this particular demo. So I'm just going to save this. The last thing that we need to do here is edit this chat widget. Now, whenever ChatGPT responds, it's going to respond and put the information into a variable called AI.response. All right, so you ask it a question, it answers the question, that information is stored in a variable with this name. So all we need to do is output the content of that variable, just like this. And then the user will have that answer, and then they could ask another question. And then from here, we're going to route this one right back into the AI widget. So it's going to send their second question back into the widget. It remembers the conversation, so it will remember the first question that was asked. And now the second question is going to be asked to ChatGPT, and it will be able to respond. Again, the response will come here, and the user is going to be in this endless loop, and they can ask as many questions as they would like. So let's just go down here and click on this main menu option right here, and let's run this bot. And sure enough, it just asks, how can I help you? And I'm going to put in here, what is your dog's name? That's part of the information that I've trained the bot on. And very good, the dog's name is Badger, and I'm going to say, how old is Badger? 5 years old. Very good. So I am going to show you exactly where this information came from in just one moment. But before we do that, I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to say, what color is a rainbow? That. And like we told it, it says, sorry, I don't have that information. Now, if we did not tell it to only use the information in the context, it would have answered that question. So even though the bot is using our own private information, it can go and use public information as well. But in our context, we're telling it not to do that. Okay, so The bot, this is really it. That's all there is to this bot. The user could sit here and ask as many questions as they'd like, and ChatGPT is going to be able to answer all those questions. Now let's just go back here one more time, just as a reminder that within here, we told it to use this container, this test container for the information to answer questions. So let's go and have a look and see where that information is coming from. So we go back out, we go into the chatbot area and into this content area. And from here, we've got a container, and I've just named it test container. And let's go over to the containers area. And basically, to get started, you always have to create a container, which is kind of like a folder. And then within that container or folder, we put one or more documents. So let's edit this container, and you'll see all it is here is the name, test container. You don't need to put this here because typically your ChatGPT key will go into the system settings. But if there's a specific bot that you want specifically to use a different key, then you can put it here. The embedding model is LangChain. I would suggest that you try LangChain first, and if it doesn't work or maybe doesn't work well for you, maybe you can use Face from Facebook. Sometimes different models provide different features and work in different ways. But start with LangChain, and typically that's good. So once you have a container, then you create a container, then you go back into content. And typically what I do is from the list of containers, just select the container, and then it just shows you the documents that are currently in that container. If you don't do that, it'll just show you all the documents that are in the entire system here. So we just want to work with the test container right now. So if you're starting from scratch, you would hit this plus, and because we've already selected the test container, it's defaulted here. You would put in a title and some content here. It's also possible to upload documents here, but we are not going to do that for this example. We're going to keep it really simple. And again, in this situation, I'm just going to cancel this because I've already added 2 documents. Here's the first one. I have a red golden retriever and his name is Badger. And if you remember in the prior example, I did ask the bot, what's your dog's name? And it did say that it was Badger. He lives in a doghouse outside. He never comes into the house. So you can format this information in really 2 different ways. You can put it into like a question answer. So for example, you could put here, what is your dog's name? And then you could put here, my dog's name is Badger, right? Or, where does your dog live? And then answer, our dog lives outside in a doghouse, that kind of thing. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. Sometimes you can experiment with things if the bot isn't answering properly. But in this situation, we're just telling it information. I have a red golden retriever and his name is Badger. He lives outside in a doghouse, right? So I could ask the question, where does Badger live? And it will tell me he lives outside in the doghouse, okay? So that's the 2 different ways that you can format this information if you want to. I'll save this one. And let's look at the second one that I created. And it just says, our dog is 5 years old. So again, if you remember prior, I did ask the bot, how old is your dog? And it did say that the dog is 5 years old. So whether you put the questions and answer all into one document, or you separate them out into separate documents, it really doesn't matter to the bot which way you do it. This functionality is just provided so that you can make these choices and either use one, really long document or break it up into logical bits of information for the chatbot. Okay, so once that is done, we've got this information, we've got all the questions and answers that we want. Once you're all done inputting these questions and answers, you must click this button. And when you click this publish button, it will take the information from all the documents that are listed here and create embeddings, which basically means it's going to take the information and prepare it for ChatGPT to use it. Okay. And you also must remember that if you ever come in here and update one of these documents, you always, again, must click that publish button so that it can resubmit all of this information into ChatGPT so it can use it to answer your questions. Okay, so I think we're done with the demo today. That is a good getting starting started point at how to set up a whole question answer bot from scratch using your own information that you input directly into the system.